It was a warm Saturday afternoon when Karen decided she had enough of entitlement and started demanding groceries from my pantry. Her son, notorious for pushing boundaries, had convinced her that they could simply borrow what they wanted from my property. I knew immediately that this wouldn't end quietly. Instead of confronting her head-on, I decided to use the situation to teach a lesson about respect and authority. I calmly observed from a distance as she strutted onto my property, pushing a cart, expecting me to comply with her unreasonable demands. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't just any ranch owner. I was the local police commander, and this kind of audacity had serious consequences. I approached the gate, wearing my uniform and badge, which always had a way of silencing her arguments. Her mouth opened, likely preparing her usual tirade, but stopped mid-sentence when she realized who was standing there. I explained firmly, "You are trespassing, and any attempt to take property from my home without permission is considered theft." Karen tried to argue, claiming she was just borrowing, and that her son needed snacks. I listened, unimpressed, letting her rant. Then I calmly informed her of the legal repercussions for both her and her son, emphasizing that as police commander, I had the authority and responsibility to act immediately if laws were broken. By this time, her son had begun reaching for items in the cart, clearly expecting me to step aside. I raised my hand and calmly, but firmly, instructed him to stop. He froze, realizing that he had underestimated both my patience and my authority. Next, I decided it was time for a practical demonstration. I escorted Karen and her son to the edge of my property and explained the boundaries clearly, marking them with visible signage. I emphasized that trespassing, taking property without consent, or trying to manipulate law enforcement was not tolerated. Her protests were met with silence from my security team, who were also in plain view to reinforce the point. The real kicker came when I mentioned the potential for civil and criminal charges. Karen's face turned red with frustration, her usual confidence crumbling as the reality of her actions set in. I offered a single opportunity for her to leave peacefully, stressing that any further attempts to violate my property or my rules would result in immediate arrest. By the time she and her son retreated, flustered and muttering threats, I had secured my pantry, my property lines, and my peace of mind. I reviewed the security footage and ensured everything was logged for legal purposes just in case. Karen had learned, once again, that entitlement had limits when faced with authority backed by law. Later that evening, I shared the story with neighbors, not in a boastful way, but as a cautionary tale about respecting property and authority. Karen became the example everyone referenced when discussing the importance of following rules. My family enjoyed a quiet dinner, reflecting on how a potential conflict had been defused without escalation, relying on preparation, authority, and calm strategy. By nightfall, Karen's attempts had been neutralized. Her son understood consequences in a way he hadn't before, and my property was secure. This wasn't just about groceries. It was about maintaining respect, boundaries, and demonstrating that actions have consequences, no matter how entitled someone thinks they are.